Let's buy a lottery ticket for Joe because he's a gambler. Whoa, this looks so familiar. There he is. Good morning.
How are you?
Good. This looks familiar. This is the store where you walked in circles.
Yeah.
Give people free quarters.
I would if I hadn't gone to all cards here.
Oh,
I know.
in Christ.
So here's the
All
deal.
cards.
Here's the deal. I've set up every store to be coin or the other two hybrid. At this store, we have an issue with power outages. I've never had a break-in, vandalism, stealing my money out of my changers, except in this store, when the power goes out, the whole town floods in. My doors forced, my changers.
That's the LA rolling blackout bullshit, right?
Yeah, and we don't know when it's gonna happen.
So when the power
all
goes
of
out,
that.
they try to vandalize the store and they try to jimmy into the
I
stuff?
can show you. I've got changers with a door, bent open. They've never gotten a single penny from, trying to get in.
Yeah.
But over the course of, the last 5 years, I've had to replace 3 changers that,
They don't care what's in there. They just, and they can't even get into them.
Exactly.
They just f up the
Exactly.
facade. Yeah.
And render it inoperable. So I've been, thinking, especially as I'm expanding, maybe I go away from hybrid and go fully card. I did it here, and I offered a sweet bonus to transition all of the customers over who came in, thinking they were going to just drop some quarters in, say, hold on, don't leave yet, let us show you how. And business has been good. The bonus, I doubled their money for the first 2 weeks. We installed it right in the middle of the month. Doubled their money for the remainder of that month. Everyone loved it. They got free money. They're happy, and we transitioned over successfully.
Well, you can do that because you have enough locations now where you can say, let's see what happens. Let's try it out.
Got a little insurance of some extra income.
Yeah.
It's not not going to break me.
How long you been coming here?
Oh, since they've opened. I live down the street, so it's really close. I was actually happy when they opened.
Where did you go before to do
There's
laundry?
a laundry down there, maybe 2 lights down that way. Or there's a laundromat that way. But it's a little further for me.
Yeah.
And I don't have a car. So
Okay.
I put my clothes in my basket and it's like a block or 2.
Nice.
And I love it's 24 hours.
There you go.
Great.
That's important.
Yes, right?
What do you do for work?
I work at the cafeteria in the upper school district.
Okay. So just one job.
Just one, 2 jobs.
There we go. All right.
Yeah.
We talk about how folks have 2 jobs and want to be able to come in the laundry when they want. I mean, now it's the middle of the day.
I know.
But 24 hours is nice, especially when it's a bright, clean, well-lit store where you feel comfortable.
Yes.
What is your name?
Tara.
Tara, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you
you
so
with all
much.
I would give you free quarters, but it's a card store now.
Oh, I know. I remember when it was the quarters.
I have a card
How do you
store
like
from
the
another.
card?
I love it. It's easy. It's easy. Really easy. Convenient.
We looked at all the different cards out there, and this one, it's just tap. You don't actually have to swipe a card
I
and
like
all
how
that
you
stuff.
just put it in there. I love that.
Boom. Yeah.
It's easy. Yes. Love it. Love it.
No, cards are terrible.
Cards.
He's not a fan of the.
I'm not adamantly against cards, but when you have one store, and you can attest to this, you don't want your first store to be card. Because that's one of the questions when people are getting into the business. You're on the other side of the
I'm a
business.
customer. Yeah.
Right, and so you can say, yeah, I like the cards. You've had good experience with it. Everybody has quarters. Everybody has dollars.
Yeah.
And when you do the card system, and what do these cards cost you?
The cards cost like a little over $2.
Okay.
No.
Well, that cost them $2.
No.
It costs you $2.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Or no, I'm sorry, a little under $2.
Okay.
Sorry.
And you charge $2 for them.
I charge $1 for them. We
So
started
he's
free.
eating a buck.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
We started free, but then I noticed that the same a regular that we see here all the time. I see him walk straight in, get a new card, and I'm like, I know you.
I have my same card. Since it's my same card, I haven't had to buy another one. I keep it in my wallet with because I come here. So it's right along with my other cards. I keep it in my wallet. It's perfect.
That's
and
smart.
that's why I instituted the $1 because I don't want anybody to have to buy cards. I just want you to keep your card.
The same card.
Yeah. If you keep your card, then everybody's happy.
You should tattoo the card like on your
right
skin. Yeah, and then be done with it.
There we go.
That's loyalty.
That's real loyalty.
I have somebody that wants to put tattoo my logo on themselves.
You're like famous. Like famous people. You hear like people getting tattooed of like famous. You don't even know these people. But
Well, I have a course. I teach people how to get into this business. And this guy wants to, it's $300. It's not expensive. The guy wants to get a tattoo in order to get the course. I was like, all right, dude, I don't want him to do it because I would feel guilty.
Isn't a tattoo more than $300?
It could be.
Around that price, depending on how big you want it.
But if you were me, what would you say?
What could you do? I know.
I said what you said. I was like, we need to talk about parameters. It needs to be a certain size because I don't want them getting this little tiny pin. It's like a skull with a crown on it, and they're like, no. And I want it to be my face. I want it to be that logo.
That would be great. I know.
Yeah. That poor guy.
That'll be.
You have to go with him and autograph.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Then it'll be the cover-up tattoo will be next. Well, you're amazing. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Let's go over here.
Thank you.
Tell me about the store. Cards. I'm not telling anybody that you have to do everything that I say to do. It's completely up to you, but people want to know in the beginning. They want to understand. I'm very opinionated, but I feel like I have to be. Like the Coin Laundry Association, right? Do you get that magazine? Did you ever subscribe to them?
I used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't anymore.
But you read every article on every subject and they're middle of the road. They don't have an opinion on anything because they can't be opinionated. Pick a topic, folding tables or card versus coin, and you read the article and at the end of it you feel extremely satisfied because you didn't learn anything and they didn't take a side. Look at Luke and Lee. They have 80 stores and of course their card, but it's their proprietary system that they designed and nobody can have it. They've talked about, well, they prayed on it and somebody showed up and said, you know, the Lord came to them and said, you shouldn't do it, and so they don't. But if I was going to design a system for my stores, it would be perfect for me, and that's what they did. You're a research guy, so what made you decide that this is the right system?
This specific system?
Yeah.
So it's not dependent upon the internet being up. In the hybrid store Hollywood, we have a different card system for people to use their credit cards. They also have loyalty cards as well. You can do a whole store through them, and I've just had so much trouble with them, and I experienced that trouble before I made the decision to convert this store over to card. With LaundryWorks, it's up all the time, and then when the internet is up, then the kiosk can communicate and send all the data that they need.
So anytime it comes up,
it'll do the communication.
Updates.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the only drawback if you're disconnected from the internet is you can't process credit cards right at that moment. But if you have a little bit spotty internet, it's back up in 5 minutes. You haven't inconvenienced any customer.
So you have rolling blackouts in LA, and I have a client in South Africa, and he asked me, he has a couple stores now, and he asked me, what do I do with the rolling blackouts that we experience? And I said, number one, that happens in LA. Yeah. And number two, what do you do when you're in line at the bank and the power goes out? And he says, we shrug our shoulders, TIA. This is Africa. So I said, so open a laundromat. Everybody's going to do the same thing. And he was talking about generators and having the power up and doing this and that and the other. And I said, well, what's your fear? The fear was that someone's going to have wash and a front loader and the power's going to go out. And I was like, so what? You'll figure it out. If that happens, no one's going to blame you. It's not a bank. They're going to figure it out. And sure enough, now he's got 2 stores. So what happens specifically here?
When it was coin, we would have the attendant take name and information and would have to figure out a refund process. We can either Zelle people or send them a check, something like that. Now it's super easy with the cards. If we have a power outage and it cancels their wash cycle, we could just issue the credit back to their account.
Okay.
And, next time they come in, they have the money back on their account. So,
but this is, again, no one blames you. They just say,
No.
well, it's
No.
LA, and they go
But
home.
at the same time, they want to make sure that they're not having paid for something they didn't get. And I
Right.
understand that. So
Of course.
issue a refund, and that's it. Easy.
So is this store number 1?
This is store number 1. This is where it
This
started.
is the landlord that I called?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh my God. So where are you at in your lease now?
So we're 5 years in, and we just had the first escalator kick in. It was a 10% increase
Okay.
this year, actually next month. So it was nice, had that nice ramp up. It was easy.
Yeah.
And then we have another 5-year period, and then there'll be another escalator if we choose to extend. This is a 10-year lease with a 5-year option.
Right.
So we'll have another escalator.
So they probably asked, if I remember, for 3% increases yearly, and we got them to 2, and they held it off for 5 years. So 10%, meaning 2% per year.
Yeah.
That's
and,
good.
Their rough calculation, 2% a year, 5 years, that's 10%. Well, anyone who knows a little bit about math knows about compounding interest, and I was
Right.
happy. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead. Every 5 years, that's bumping up.
The YouTube machine, all these schmucks, we make a short video and it's me negotiating, and people love to jump on there, these experts in nothing, and say, that's a terrible deal for the landlord. But I don't talk about escalations. When we send our LOI, it doesn't say we're going to escalate here. We want to give you this percentage. We want to give you triple nets. That's up to them. Because there are still gross leases out there to be had. And I'm not the guy that's going to say, oh, by the way, just people get diarrhea of the brain, and they start asking about escalations. They start asking about triple nets. How much is it going to cost me to remove the snow here in LA? And you shouldn't. The LOI is just blank. And sometimes the landlord will call back, or their agent will call back and say, what about escalations? What about, okay, you tell me.
Yeah, what are you asking for?
I'm not going to go buy a car and say, how much is the undercoating? When you go in the little room and they force you to pay for it, and you say, I don't want to pay for it, that's when that happens. So you know how it is. It's definitely, it's a tiered process.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to the escalator, what was the percentage rate here? I don't remember. What's your square foot here? What was it?
We're 2038 here. We started it at 90 cents. That was for the first year only. Then we went up to $1.
Okay.
Then, so 4 years later.
How much free rent did you get?
So I got a total of a year. We got, I forget the exact breakdown. It was something like 6 months or 8 months up front, and then we got an abated month twice a year in March and September every year for the next 4 years or whatever.
Landlord must have been a hard ass when you got to play that game.
I mean, it was great. We got everything we wanted. I think they had essentially just given up on the space. It sat vacant. So at the end of the day, they gave in on everything at this particular store.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Free laundromat, free infrastructure, 90 cents a square foot. Even with increases, you're still, that Quickie Mart over there is probably paying $3.75.
He's complained to me about his rate. I was shrugging. Yeah, it's a really expensive area.
Bruh.
It's rough on us.
Rough on us.
Why the you lying?
Oh my God.
Okay, so one of my questions, there's people out there that they say, well, I'm never going to buy from Alliance again because they are collecting data, they're building stores, company-owned stores, they're terrible, they're the devil, never going to buy from Alliance again. I'm not caring so much about buying, whether I buy Alliance or Dexter or Electrolux, I don't care. But I'm wondering about what the implications that this is going to have in 5, 10, 15 years for us in picking up new stores. Is the opportunity, do you believe, going to be a little bit less as those company-owned stores are being built in where they perceive the best opportunities to be, and then the other opportunities that they know may not be very popular, however they collect the data?
Well, first of all and foremost, the bigger picture, I take umbrage with distributors because they don't operate laundromats. Think about it that way. You've got someone standing there and telling you, you got to take this Porsche for a spin. This is the greatest car on earth. It's absolutely brilliant. It runs on rails, gets good gas mileage, drop the top and take your wife down the PCH, right? And then at the end of the day, he goes and gets in his Ford and drives home. Do you really trust that guy who's trying to sell you a bill of goods? The distributors are constantly saying how lovely this business is. This is the equipment that you need. We talked about this at the other store. There's always a row of 30s and 250s. Why? Because we've always done it that way. So I think that we should trust the distributors that actually want to operate stores a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about them ending up being your direct competition. So why are they building those stores? Will they really do it? If they do, what are they going to do with them? If they're profiting, they'll keep them. But if they're not, they'll sell them to the next guy. So that's really, dude, you know I'm not the big distributor rah-rah cheerleader.
Yeah.
Because every single person that buys a laundromat and then needs to retool it gets doubly f***ed. It's just compounding their problem because they go from a store that's not functioning properly to paying double for the equipment. They just don't know. The thousands of people I've consulted with, no one ever knows what machines cost.
Yeah.
No one. We're in San Diego where I was invited to the CLA thing and I went and someone said, you know, I was sober, but there was the cocktail mixer and they said, here's a guy you need to talk to, and we mic'd him up and he was like, I don't want to say who, but a big distributor, right? Cameras rolling. I said, why don't you publish your prices? Like right out of the gate. That's all I wanted to know. And he looks at me and he's like, I'm sorry, who are you? I'm Danny D'Angelo. I took my sunglasses off and he's like, oh, like now I'm screwed because he's standing there. But what else do I want to do? Small talk, ask him what kind of car he drives, how big are your wife's. He puts his wine down and he takes off his name tag. Like he doesn't want to be identified suddenly. It was all very, very awkward.
Yeah.
But what do I care? You know, I don't. I'm asking these questions for you and the likes of you.
Yeah.
So we talked for probably 5 minutes, and you know what he ended up saying? It's that way because it's always been that way. Literally said those words, and I look in the camera, and I'm like, you heard it here first. It's that way because it's always been that way. So do you think personally that they're going to, I mean, I could tell you stories. The Willifords, right, their distributor that they've always used, who shall remain nameless, they said, you know what? In quiet corners at these events, we all talk about the distributors and how we've been wronged by them, what they did. It's not, you know, a personal issue. It's your business, your livelihood, your family.
Yep.
And Luke and Lee told me, we have 3 stores on this street, and they sold a new store to a guy and built it out on that street. Now, what do you think they were thinking?
This guy's an asshole. He doesn't care about us, and he just screwed some
Correct.
newbie.
Correct.
Just
yes,
some-
100%. The Willifords weren't thinking like, oh man, they're throwing a competition on our block. No, they were upset that they would do that to that guy. And I said, well, how's it doing? How is the store doing? Like, he's been a year and a half in and the doors aren't open. So did that guy get a year free rent? No. You know, and I could go on. Joe Dan Reed, they did a contest for X amount of equipment for free. You write an essay. And Joe Dan wrote an essay and won the contest, and they gave him tons of free equipment, his nameless distributor, right? And they, behind his back, went and built a store and plugged a guy in, again, right in his territory. Didn't say a word. The opposite of the Willifords, he's upset. He's really angry about it. Won't talk to those people, won't do business with those people any longer.
Yeah.
But everybody hates used car salesmen, right? I mean, everybody, because we've all been screwed, or we've heard the stories. The guy comes out and, yeah, no problem with this one. We don't need to take a test drive. It's perfect. How do you personally feel about what might happen or where they might put a store? I mean, it sounds like you're kind of internet searching and saying that they're doing this thing. Like, it's like the franchise model.
I feel a little bit different than some of the other people out there. Perhaps Joe Dan Reed, I've never been to his market, so I can't say anything from personal observation. But I know out there, the population density is less, and you have to be very strategic in where you're going and what the competition is and all that. In LA, we can walk outside and I can point at 2 laundromats, 3 in this location. They're not going to build anything here. That's not exactly what I'm worried about. I'm just looking out into the future and thinking about, how do I plan for this? Because for me, in 5 years or 10 years, if this all comes to fruition, we're going to have a bunch of mega stores owned by the distributors, and what's falling by the wayside and what's the opportunity for me is not going to really be the profitable stores.
It's obviously a fear, I should say. Do you think it's a real thing? Do you think it's a...
Are they actually going to build these stores?
Where are you hearing this?
So Speed Queen has a store in Long Beach.
Okay.
If they do well, I don't know, they might. I saw a sign that they're building another one. I don't go down to Long Beach. Right now I'm centered a little more north of that, but there's a sign that they're building out a store, and they've branded it that it's being built by PWS, but it's being branded Speed Queen. I don't know. It's concerning.
Where did you first find out about this? Where did you gain this knowledge that they were doing this the first time? Facebook,
either
one of the
Facebook,
forums?
Reddit, some place like that.
Right. First of all, why do distributors exist? Why is it something that happens? Elon Musk came out and said, I'm going to put one car in the mall and you can go there and look at it and you can buy it. Rivian, they make those electric cars. One of my recent clients, they're partners and they both work for Rivian. And they work at the plant. They're, upper echelon, upper management guys. And I'm just astounded that I said, I've seen those cars on the street. They're cool. They're like trucks. Yeah. But I've never seen one for sale, and I've never seen a commercial for them. And they told me, we don't do commercials. You can't really lay hands on one, but you'll see one in the street. It's just mind-blowing to me. So every time operators get together, every time you go to a CLA event, they're having a big event in the main hall where the distributors are talking down to people, and in the hallway, everyone's saying, I fucking hate those people, but they're a necessary evil. I don't see them building stores to profit, because their MO has always been turns per day. When they build stores to sell, the Maytag did it forever. It would be Bob's Laundry, and then there's a little Maytag emblem, or Bob's Maytag. It's like the Ace Hardware, right? Yep. It's Fred's Ace. And they built those stores. They never opened the doors because they didn't want to show the real numbers. Mm-hmm. They wanted to show figures on TPD. Yeah. Dude, I'm not upset that there's nobody in this store right now except for the young lady. Neither are you, because it happens. When you go to a ball game and you walk out and you're like, oh, there's nobody here. I'll have a hot dog and a beer. And then you turn around and there's 50 people in line. Well, maybe you weren't paying attention. It's a triple play. Who knows? But you got lucky, right? You go back to the wife. You're like, there was nobody in line. I went pee and I bird dogged a chick, and here I am with our hot dog. It's just a lull. A Tuesday is not going to get 7 fucking turns per day. You know that. But they still put those figures in front of you, and that's a lie.
Turns per day is a made-up number. It's a garbage number. I'm sorry, but this is a hot button for me.
Yeah.
Who cares about turns per day? It's about revenue. I could lower the price of every washer in here to $1, and my turns per day would be 12 turns a day, and great.
There's 1 million people in here.
Who cares?
Right.
But realistically, what they do is they have it around that, in this neighborhood, maybe it's $2.50 or $3, trying to be like, well, if I bring it up to $4, then my turns per day goes down by 0.1. It's a garbage number. Who cares? What you need to do is you need to keep raising the prices until you see the total revenue drop. Who cares if your turns per day is at
That's how you know
12,
the sweet spot.
Exactly. I don't care if my turns per day are at 12 or at 2. What I care about is my revenue going up.
Right.
So
yeah, I have that
is a made-up number by them to be able to do exactly what you're talking about, because nowhere else is anything measured in the number of times.
I hear this from landlords all the time. They say these words. They're doing really well. I'm calling up. It's a destroyed, disgusting, filthy laundromat with no customers, and the landlord says they're doing really well. They're doing really well. Well, how do you know what they're doing? You're not sharing the profit, and then they're selling you something. The landlord decides like, oh yeah, I do want to lease it to you. Oh, it's a phenomenal business. Or they operated it. Or I was doing $80,000 a month last year. You've got to be able to wade through the bullshit.
I'm pretty sure this hot water heater's got a few more good years left in it.